So I actually wrote this script, I don't want to say a year ago, but whenever it was that the last time I played Yume Nikki was the last time I edited the script. So I've had it for a while, and I've been meaning to put out a video on this game because I find it fascinating, and I'm just going to try with this video to be a bit more sort of organic in sort of my discussion of the game, because it's a very confusing game. I don't know if you guys knew. It can be quite confusing, but we're going to try and just learn about some of the meaning behind some of the themes that come out in the game. Now, to say that Yume Nikki is confusing is an understatement. You know, you hit play, you hit new game, it just looks like a normal RPG Maker game like any other, and then you're just there. No introduction, no opening cinematic, no open dialogue. You're just in a room as this little girl who won't go through the only door of the room. I am the first to admit that Yume Nikki confused me greatly when I first played it, and felt it initially comes across as sort of aimless to begin with seemingly no narrative to this creepy RPG Maker game. You know, with no dialogue and nothing but doors to strange other worlds upon going to sleep, I found myself struggling to stay interested in the game in the first few episodes of my Let's Play, which you can check out on the channel, guys. Thank you very much. Let's move on. However, that soon changed as I continued on and searched for these effects, which each transform the protagonist Madasuki into something else, or provides her with an item to use to help find other effects. Oh my god! Now these, together with the disturbing imagery and soundtrack, managed to pique my curiosity into exploring just why this girl who lives in this apartment complex and straight up refuses to leave her bedroom does nothing but write in her diary, maybe play the Famicom, or dream in her sleep. What goes on in her life that means she doesn't leave her room? Why does she choose to escape into these dream worlds? And why does everything in the game lead to this? Today's video will be exploring some of the themes of this game and just trying to piece together some kind of an understanding about Madasuki and her life, bearing in mind that the game's creator states on their website, possessing a dark atmosphere, this game allows you to explore the world inside a dream. There is no particular story or purpose. It is simply an exploring game. The game is intentionally abstract and unguided, and unlike any other RPG Maker games that preceded it, in my opinion. Now, going from other theories and some research via the wiki and some other places, there are a number of themes that you can draw based on a number of factors within the game. The events, which are sequences or scenes that take place in the game that perhaps provide more context to the background of Madasuki. The imagery, you know, the diverse range of worlds with strange and sometimes disturbing pictures and artwork, which are often showing something more than what is right in front of you. And the effects. Each of the 24 effects have their own individual part to play in the game, even if it's just to help you get the ending. And these also help us again to understand a bit more about Madasuki. There's also the characters and other creatures in the game that Madasuki interacts with, or at least tries to, in each of the various worlds. They also help to sort of show how she feels when being with others and how they treat her. The one theme that sticks out for me more than anything in this game is loneliness. Throughout the game, Madasuki is alone. She is only ever in her room or her dreams, isolated from the rest of the world. Each world itself can feel very cold and lonely, as the dream worlds often repeat on themselves, making you feel like you are trapped in an endless cycle, going on and on and on, all on your own. Even the NPCs that you see in the other worlds are often barely responsive towards her, except for those crazy-eyed birds. Very few actually respond to her and interact themselves, further adding to that theme of loneliness and isolation. Does this maybe tell us that Madasuki is alone in real life, whether it be because of her family or her friends, or lack thereof? In any case, we certainly get the feeling that this girl is not well loved by the people in her life. The fact that she shakes her head when she is awake at the notion of going through the door to the rest of her home maybe tells us more about her life than anything else. But let's keep going. The next thing that maybe relates a lot to her isolation is the theme of death and violence. There are many situations where using the effect, the knife, will allow the player to progress through killing. Whilst not strictly necessary to progress, it says a lot about the game that the player can use the knife on near enough any NPC, each with their own varied reaction, most disappearing while an audible scream can be heard. The knife, which is found on its own in the Dark World, I think shows that the use of a knife in a violent manner potentially is something that Madasuki has potentially seen and or experienced in her life. This potentially leading to her lucid dreams of stabbing others. As well as the knife aspects of the violent themes, you can also see it in a lot of the different worlds and NPCs, from blood being seen on the floor in many areas to creatures that appear in pain or attacked. Madasuki clearly has been affected by violence, or maybe a death in her real life that plays a part in what she sees in her dreams. On top of that, it could well explain her decision to not go through the door in her flat in the real world, likely because of domestic violence between her parents that have led to trauma and potentially some form of mental illness. Her dreams are her only escape from the horrors of her home life, and the ending of the game does nothing to denounce that particular theory. Once all the effects are collected, Madasuki goes outside and jumps off the balcony. So I go back to what I said earlier. What led her to do this? Well, let's look briefly at some of the locations found in the game, as many of them can help paint a picture of what might have led to that fateful ending, with the themes that we can theorize. Starting with the location dubbed the Mall, with one particular area closely resembles that of a hospital or a therapist office. This is also where Madasuki gets the flute effect, which could also mean that this instrument was given to her as musical therapy. It is not surprising, given some of the other dream worlds of Madasuki's mind, that she would be someone that either already goes to therapy or maybe sees it as something that could help her if given the chance. The number world could potentially be interpreted as a school, with the numbers obviously relating to maths, the long corridors, and the faces representing lockers and hallways. When entering the crowded stabbing room, this is the perfect representation of anxiety in crowded spaces and wishing everyone would go away. Now in her mind, she proceeds to violently stab everyone to give herself some space, as she feels it's one of the only solutions in that scenario, hence why it has been dubbed the stabbing room. The Pink Sea looks a much brighter and happier place to many of the other locations, with the balloons, party poppers and bright colours. It seems to represent a party of some sort. As Paniko is the only character there, it makes sense that the party is for her. Her facial expression looks distant and uninterested. She also seems to move away when Madasuki gets close to her. In the manga, Madasuki asks herself if Paniko will one day be her friend, and remarking admiration of cute clothes, which all suggests that Madasuki watched from afar, longing to either be her friend or more, and potentially never had the courage to speak to her directly. And in the dream, if she does, Paniko is not interested, citing a fear of rejection and anxiety of what could happen if she does tell her. The infamous Yuboa Easter egg, that is arguably the most iconic event from Yume Nikki, could really link back to that theme of loneliness and isolation, as she is then trapped with Yuboa and can only leave the room by interacting with this seemingly dark and more horrible version of potentially what Paniko is in the event that Madasuki tells her how she feels about her. She's then transported to Yuboa's world, which is more disturbing imagery and no escape to wake up. Now that we've looked at some of the themes, let's look more closely at what happened to this little girl and some of the events of the game. I won't go through all of them like the Nasu or the crick in the neck, but some of the events that may help us understand Madasuki better, like the Falling Man, This, like some of the events, occur by pure chance, and this one shows either one person or two falling from the sky. This, after seeing the ending of the game, has clear and obvious connotations with how Madasuki ended everything. The meaning behind dreams of falling can be an indication of anxiety, insecurity, and the feeling of being out of control. Perhaps Madasuki as a child has no control of how her parents are. Maybe her feelings of helplessness leads her to see those falling men. Does she see that as a way out of her terrible home life? Just a thought. With another large theme of traffic accidents being present throughout the game, not least receiving the stoplight effect when coming across a dead person on the road. When finding Monoko and using the stoplight effect, her appearance significantly changes to that more so of someone who was in a road traffic accident. Monoko could have been another classmate or a friend of Madasuki who died or was severely injured in a car or road traffic accident, further adding to any potential trauma that Madasuki has already experienced, and could have been one of the initial reasons she potentially had therapy. And the final event I'll just mention is that of the severed heads, in which you stab an NPC and enter a tunnel in the white desert world. You follow a path, and once you enter a small room, an image of a man's severed head and a woman's severed body appears over in the sky. As soon as you leave though, it disappears. I got the feeling that this building is kind of like the door in Madasuki's room. If she goes through it, she maybe sees the horrible things that are happening between her parents. Or potentially her parents were killed and she survived and saw the whole thing. Maybe it happened in that room. Maybe Madasuki should have called the police, but instead just stays in her room, hiding away because she's scared. Maybe, just maybe, there is something that is quite literally happening to Madasuki right now whilst we're playing the game, which is why she doesn't leave. Yume Nikki is just a phenomenally thought-provoking and well-crafted RPG Maker horror game. Its use of imagery, sound design and specific events and Easter eggs that drip feeds the potential anguish that the protagonist Madasuki goes through is incredible. It's such a well-loved game from such a long time ago now, but I played it not that long ago and I just wanted to talk about it. And I know we covered nowhere near the detail that this game deserves, so let me know if you want me to go into it further with some of the other themes, characters or events. Let me know if you would also like to see me maybe stream Yume Nikki Dream Diary. It's sort of a 3D remake that was apparently not that good, but I'm kind of interested to see what it's like in 3D, you know. But let me know. Thank you guys again so much for watching this video, and I will see you guys next time.